Hey, what's up everybody? Daniel here from Never Enough Tech. A few videos back, I reviewed the shiny new Sonos Arc. While I'm largely an Apple tuber, that review took my viewing from this to this. I'm pretty dense, but I can take a hint. Anyway, towards the end of my Arc review, I suggested that the Samsung HW-Q90R might be an interesting Arc alternative to consider. I made that suggestion largely off specs and this cool video. Mostly specs, but just a pinch of video. In this video, I want to dig deeper into my suggestion. How did these two flagship home theater systems from very different companies, Sonos and Samsung, compare? I love flagships. The best ships, really. I want to watch these two systems go at it, just blatantly disregard all physical distancing recommendations. I'm not even going to be subtle about this. Throw up the scoreboard. So here are your contenders. First up, the Samsung HW-Q90R, coming in at $1,700. Samsung's finest home theater offering. Joining the league in May 2019, so a seasoned veteran. The Q90R includes a soundbar, wireless subwoofer, and 2 wireless surround speakers. I'll just be calling it Q or Q90 from here on out. You can't expect me to keep uttering its stupid off-brand Star Wars droid name. The Challenger, the long-awaited follow-up to the Sonos Playbar, and Sonos' top offering, the Arc. While the Arc alone is $800, the least expensive full home theater bundle is $1,856 with a Gen 3 sub and 2 Sonos One SLs. The Arc is still quite green behind the ears. That's not the one. Anyway, having made its debut in June 2020. Right now it's July 2020. For the purposes of this comparison, I'll be testing the Arc with a Gen 1 sub and 2 Sonos Ones. So, fight! You're not here, so you can't really feel the tension. First category, size. All else being equal, you want compact. The Q soundbar is 48.3 inches long, 3.3 inches tall, and 5.4 inches deep, coming in at 861 cubic inches. The Sonos Arc is 45 inches long, so over 3 inches shorter, 3.4 inches tall, so just about the same here, but only 4.5 inches deep, nearly an inch less than the Q. As you can clearly see, the Q surround subs are bulkier than Sonos's. So if you're just comparing soundbars, the Q is 25% more bulky. If you're considering everything, the Q will take up 38% more space in your dwelling. A win for the Arc? It's on the scoreboard. It's getting hot in here. We're in it now. Speaking of hot, sexiness. This is not really a difficult judgment. The Arc is curvier and more unique and cleverly named after this 270-degree rounded arc in front. The Q is a hulking monolith, with literally some edges shaved off to make it more approachable. Given the Arc comes in 2 colors, black and white, and is more sculpted with the rounded front and flat oval ends, I'm going to give a point to Arc. Let's say the Arc is a classy sports sedan, and the Q90 is a bejeweled full-size truck. I'd prefer to look at the sports sedan, if it has to live under my TV. For the surround speakers and sub, the sexy gap is quite wide. For the Q, the surrounds and subs are clearly meant to serve the soundbar. Honestly, the design of the rest of the system seems a bit like an afterthought. In contrast, all of Sonos' speakers are thoughtfully crafted and meant to look beautiful. Or good looking enough to be seen in public anyway. Honestly, I think these speakers here are about halfway to sculpture worthy. Oh, I'm gonna get some downvotes for that comment. Another point for Sonos. You will never, ever, ever find this on a Sonos product. Well, maybe a little bit on the Playbar, but we are going to purposefully ignore that. Build quality. Both soundbars feel like sturdy premium products. Both have many holes. The Arc is plastic, but by no measure feels cheap. The Q has 4 metal grills covering the sides, top, and front. So I guess metal gets Q a point. The internet tells me it's metal, but they feel really similar. The Sonos Ones in this Gen 1 sub feel premium and meant to last. I'd argue the Q90 surrounds and sub almost have a disposable feel. Anybody home? It's like an empty box or something. +1 for Sonos. On-speaker controls. The Q soundbar has 4 clicky physical controls on top: power button, an input toggle, and volume up and down. Conspicuously missing is track control. The Q surrounds and sub do not have any controls, save a link button. All of this kind of points to the idea that the Q is mostly meant to deliver TV sound. So a little sidebar, I find power buttons on home theater speakers to be a major downer. I think it actually burdens the user. Should I be turning my soundbar on and off? Is it on or off? It adds a potential friction point. Sonos knows power buttons on these things are no good. In my short time with the Q, I often found the bar not turning on with the TV. My advice here is be prepared for some frustration on this front. I've been able to mostly work through it, but I'm far from supremely confident. Sonos has the same controls on each device, save the sub. We have play, pause, volume up, volume down, and track control with either gestures or double presses. It's a reminder that the soul of Sonos is music, not TV audio, even if the main job of the Arc is TV audio. Since Sonos puts controls on each speaker, save the sub, and supports track control, it's getting the +1. Don't worry, the Q has a comeback plan. The Q comes with a physical remote. Some of these tasks that you can do with this remote that you would not be able to do directly with your TV remote is to quickly toggle inputs on the Q, toggle sound profiles, EQ adjustments, and sub volume indicated by woofers. Who's supposed to know what woofers mean? There's woofers all over the place. I really don't like collecting remotes, though I am aware of my biases here and can see how others would value this, especially if their TV remote was not playing nice with the Q. So I'll give a +1 to the Q, but
we call ourselves the Q
only because the remote in the end is an optional accessory. If this was necessary to change the volume, I would take the whole system, put it in my driveway, and run over it 31 times. The bar's visual interfaces. The Q has a smallish, squarish information window that gives you feedback on what's going on. So input information, treble level, sound profile, volume level, these kinds of things. The information box is kind of necessary as there are many adjustments you can make with the provided remote, and your TV is most likely not going to give you the kind of feedback you need. So the information window at least gives you confirmation that you're doing what you think you're doing. Overall, I'll say the solution strays far from elegant. Sonos has the typical status indicator that shows different colors or illumination patterns depending on state. So orange if you're doing something that's not supported, and it blinks when it's given a command like, say, volume up from your TV remote. The status light, which can be set to stay on all the time, can be turned off in settings in the Sonos app. Whether it's set on or off, the status light will always respond to inputs. Too much apple and oranges stuff going on here as these bars have different capabilities. I'm annoyed, no one gets points. Speaker array. The Q has a 7.1.4 system. Lots of numbers let me decode. The first number, 7, means you have 7 sound channels shooting at your face, or ear level. 1 channel covering the low bass frequencies, so the sub, and 4 height channels. In this case, 4 channels firing sound at the ceiling, so it bounces right back down at you, simulating overhead speakers. The Q soundbar all by itself is a 5.0.2 system with a left, center, center right, and right channel, and 2 upward firing speakers. The center channels are the most sophisticated, comprising of 2 woofers for low and mid frequencies, and a tweeter for high frequencies. The surrounds with forward and upward firing speakers provide true rear channel support with 1 ear level and 1 height level channel each, elevating the soundbar by itself from a 5.0.2 system to a 7.0.4 system. When you add the sub, you finally arrive at 7.1.4. The Arc soundbar is also a 5.0.2 system. However, when you add surrounds, you are not getting true rear channels nor height channels. These surrounds help to fill in the sound behind you, but it's simply not as capable in terms of sound isolation as the Q. If you add surrounds and a sub to the Arc, you get a 5.1.2 system, and that's as far as you get with Sonos at this time. The Q system wins big here, but I'll withhold points until the sound test coming a little later. Supported audio formats. Let's start with music and podcasts. Let's just round up and say each speaker can support just about all your audio formats. The Q can support supremely high quality audio up to a 32-bit depth, while Sonos with the new S2 system can support extremely high quality music up to a 24-bit depth, so Blu-ray quality audio. You won't be hearing 24 or 32-bit quality from streaming stations, which typically deliver compressed audio at 320 kilobits per second, but rather from your personal music libraries if you're able to acquire that level audio. Again, I'll give a point grudgingly to Samsung here for the higher bit depth support, though almost nobody will be listening to 32-bit depth music that they themselves didn't record. Samsung and their specs. Audio from videos. The big story here is 3D audio. That's right, not surround audio, but 3D audio that aims to put sound objects all around you, like a screeching tire back here and a little meow up here, in specific locations in 3D space. Front and back, up and down, and experience more like a modern movie theater. The two big 3D sound brands are Dolby Atmos and DTS. Just know that when you see those brand names, whatever media you're about to consume offers 3D audio. In the streaming world, you will almost exclusively be dealing with Atmos. In the 4K Blu-ray world, you will encounter Atmos and DTS. The Q comes up on top here, supporting both formats. The Arc, on the other hand, the first Sonos soundbar to support 3D audio, supports only Dolby Atmos. Let's give a friendly little laser beam +1 for the Q. Sound adjustments. With Q, you can control the main volume, the sub volume, the channel levels, and EQ. It really seems to me though that adjusting any of the sounds outside the main volume has a limited impact. Like there are training wheels that keep you from getting too crazy. When playing music, you can change the play mode to surround to upscale music to 7.1. But the most you will get out of your surrounds are a faint ambient noise. With Arc, you get treble and bass adjustments and significant volume control over surrounds and the sub. You can change these volumes to a much more noticeable level than the Q. With Sonos for the surrounds, you can adjust the volume you want for TV and music independently. And for music, you can decide whether you want the surrounds to play ambient sounds or act as a separate stereo system, playing music in parallel with the Arc. Both systems have a night mode, and Q has a game mode that is supposed to boost the width of the soundstage. I didn't find it all that impressive or noticeable. Sonos' modular, each speaker a special approach really shines in this area. +2 points. What? It's totally lame that Q surrounds don't really support music. Maybe as a woodblock. Djembe or something. Continue doing the review. Okay. Connections to the TV. Perhaps the #1 goal here is enabling 3D audio. The connection that unleashes this magic is an HDMI port. Not sure what you were expecting, but a special one named Audio Return Channel. So eARC or Arc. Sorry, we have 2 Arcs to worry about now. Blame Sonos because Arc was here way before the Sonos Arc. To add to the confusion pile, you need a hoity-toity eARC connection to get the highest quality 3D audio. An enhanced audio return channel or eARC. Luckily, both soundbars have an eARC connection. The Q is a Johnny-come-lately with a May firmware update. It would be really nice if an eARC port said eARC. It doesn't. Don't look for it. It will just say Arc. The Sonos Arc, yes, has an Arc port, and that's it. In addition to Arc, the Q has an optical connection and 2 pass-through HDMI ports, enabling direct connection between the soundbar and the media devices. This is a perk for 2 reasons. Everyone likes perks.
It's about perks. Like having
First, it increases your net available HDMI ports by 1, where the Sonos Arc steals a port, taking one away from the TV and using it just for audio and a screensaver. Second, the pass-through inputs make it easier to get that highest level of 3D audio by cutting out the TV, which totally wants to screw everything up. So if you get the Sonos Arc, you will need to plug your media device into the TV. The number of TVs that support eARC is almost 0, or maybe close to 0% of TVs in people's homes. Here's the list. So even if you just bought a TV right now, there's a great chance it would not support the highest level of Atmos or DTS. The Q solves this with 2 pass-through HDMI ports that supports 4K up to 60 frames per second, allowing the lossless Atmos to go straight to the soundbar. So without eARC, you still get Atmos, but a very lossy form, to the point that it may be difficult to differentiate from 5.1 surround sound. Me treating you like an adult. Your lossy Atmos is going to come from your streaming services like Netflix, Amazon, Disney+, and Apple TV+. Not all devices support Atmos for any one particular service. For instance, Roku and Fire TV do not support Atmos on Netflix. It's a bummer. For streaming Atmos, Apple TV may be one of your better choices. It's messy, just trying to raise your awareness. I hate to say it, but 3D audio may require some research on your part to determine if your setup is compatible. Lossless 3D audio requires a fairly high level of commitment, as it will require a 4K Blu-ray player, which includes Xbox One. I suspect many of you don't have a 4K Blu-ray player and have little interest in buying physical media. If this is you, you'll be settling for less. What? It's true. I'm not your mom. Everything considered, the Q gets 2 points here for the 2 pass-through connections, advocating for lossless 3D sound. Though I'll point out, Arc does support HDMI 2.1, while Q supports up to HDMI 2.0. Both are compatible with eARC, but there may be audio formats in the future that Arc will be more prepared to support, as the HDMI 2.1 bandwidth is far greater. Setup complexity. The Q setup in terms of getting the system to play your TV sound is very, very simple. It really is just plug and play. Just plug in all your devices and plug in Q to the TV using the eARC port. You will need to fart around with the SmartThings app if you want to control the system with your connected device. But with the Q, that whole route is optional. With Sonos, you're going to have to do a fair bit of app work to get the system set up, manually adding each of the 4 speakers. If you are familiar with Sonos, it will all seem rather routine. If you're completely new to Sonos, setup could easily be seen as a pain point. Once you're set up though, the fuss is really over if you want it to be. The Q has a much shorter plug-in to enjoy time than the Arc. Q picks up a point.
Queen! A queen who likes to quack.
Had to take a break to go parent. Have to do that like every day. It's so disruptive. Alright, it's been a journey so far. Hope you're still there. We heard of a lot of specs, but which device actually sounds better? We know who has more speakers, but who built the most impressive sounding speakers? I wanted to bring in a bit of precision to my review, so I went to ratings.com, a site that is quite scientific and thorough in testing sound quality, going far beyond the "oh, that sounds good" routine. The Q got the top score of 60 speakers. I couldn't tell for sure, but my impression is they tested the soundbar all by itself. The Arc fell a little short, being just in the middle of the pack. Given this score, you might think the Sonos Arc might make your ears bleed. I don't think that's the impression you would get when listening to it. Where the Arc really seemed to falter, according to ratings.com, was its bass delivery at very high volumes, with the Q receiving a 9 and the Arc receiving a 5.8. It seems the Arc at high volumes tended to miss the frequency it was supposed to produce, to a far greater degree than the Q. It's unclear whether that was a stylistic choice on Sonos' part. That score was weighted quite highly. The rest of the objective sound scores were rather similar. Okay, my experience listening in my living room. The Q creates incredible sound. It's a monster. I'm not shocked it got top billing. If you live in an apartment or condo, you will only be able to access but a fraction of what the Q can do, without having the police raid your home. Keep that in mind. In my living room, which is fairly spacious, it was fairly uncomfortable when the volume was set to close to 50% on the loud scenes. I dare not push the volume to max, as I want my house to continue standing. So there's a very good chance you will never, or virtually never, get anywhere close to max volume. I'm tempted to take it outside, turn it all the way up, and see how far I have to drive before I can't hear it. I live in suburbia. The worst that can happen is a passive-aggressive note. Watching Mad Max on 4K Blu-ray with Dolby TrueHD, that's the Dolby variant that supports lossless Atmos, it more than matched the theater experience. Are you ever in the theater and think, I wish I could make it 3 times as loud? The 6th and 7th rear channels are no gimmick. You are surrounded with an incredible amount of sound, and you can make out lots of different sound features and their direction. It gets the heart pumping. The Arc is quite obvious that it does not do Atmos like the Q does, neither in sound channels nor sound fullness. It is still quite good, but not at the same level. You get an immersive experience, but the overall power and fidelity is a little less. I described the sound coming out of the bar as a bit thinner, which may not be surprising just looking at the two next to each other. I will say with the Arc, if you do want to break some windows, or remove all dust from every surface, just turn this sub all the way up. That'll do it. The Sonos sub flattens the Q90 sub. Not that it's gonna sound good, but if you're showing off. Music and podcasts. The Arc wins easily here, quite simply because the surrounds can play stereo. I'd award Sonos points here, but I think that would be double counting. I already gave it points in the sound customization. If it was soundbar versus soundbar, the Q sounds better. I think at this point maybe I can serve you best by playing some samples. So I'll play some music and some Atmos samples with the Arc alone, the Arc and the surrounds and sub, and the Q system. You obviously won't get the full effect, but perhaps you can get some sense of the relative difference if you wear headphones. Everything considered, gonna give Q 3 points on the subjective sound test. Whole home audio. The Q, while kind of a sound powerhouse, does not play well with other speakers, other than the ones that came in the set. At this time, there aren't other Samsung speakers you can buy to sync with the Q, even though some less expensive Samsung soundbars do support multi-room audio. We all know Sonos excels at creating a network of speakers. Whole home audio is kind of half the pitch. 2 points for Sonos. Upgradeability. The Q system is chained together. While you don't have to worry about buying your system piecemeal, you also don't get the freedom to customize and upgrade. Let me explain more why this might be a big deal. You might already have a sub and/or surrounds, and you just want to replace the soundbar. While with Sonos, you can take the old soundbar away and use it wherever you want, and the remaining speakers are ready for your new upgraded soundbar. So if you have, let's say, a playbar system in place, and you want to upgrade to what I have been testing, that will cost you just $800 instead of $1,700 if you went with the Q. In the future, if Sonos decides to support a 7.1.4 system, maybe by releasing a Sonos One with upward firing speakers, you can probably keep the Arc and sub and just update the surrounds. And you can repurpose the old surrounds however you want, as they work on their own and as a stereo pair, or as surrounds for another Sonos soundbar. So hooray for Sonos? 2 points. App control. A lot more work and passion and love has been dedicated to crafting a quality mobile experience for a Sonos speaker than for the Q, which is embedded in the SmartThings app. For Sonos, the app is a core part of the product. For the Q, it seems like just a chore that had to be done. 1 point for Sonos. The Q has one content partner embedded in the app, TuneIn. You can also stream to the Q using Spotify Connect, though I did find it unreliable. While with Arc, you obviously have many more content partners right in the app, fostering a cohesive experience, making it really easy to get all kinds of high-quality Wi-Fi streaming content to your device. A point for Sonos. Wireless streaming. Q supports Bluetooth, so in the end, you can get anything you are listening to on your Bluetooth-enabled device onto the Q, though at a relatively poor quality and with a physical distance tether. So when you go outside to play horseshoes, Oh, like you're a party expert. The music will come to a screeching halt, and you will be subjected to jeering and boos. I think I forgot how parties go. Arc supports AirPlay 2, which is a far superior way to stream audio. It streams in a lossless format and keeps a 2-second buffer, virtually eliminating dropout. Further, you can take your device all around the house without worrying about a weakening signal. So the Q is okay for everyone, and the Arc is great for Apple users, and way less great for not Apple users on the device streaming front. I'm just going to give each a point. Maybe also keep in mind that if your TV supports AirPlay, then Q practically supports it as well. The Q does not have a microphone for voice assistant support. The Arc does. The voice assistant will only respond when the light is on. The Q is Alexa compatible via a separate Alexa device, which is always in. The Arc is Alexa and Google Assistant compatible. I'm giving Arc 2 points here for broader support and the mic. You might give it a negative 2 points because you hate microphones. As a reminder, as there is an HDMI connection, you can more reliably turn the TV on and off and change volume with voice commands to the soundbar. Extra credit. These systems are not expertly installed. There is a good chance the system will not sound its best upon initial setup. Sounds bouncing off the ceiling and walls and all of this. The Q does not have a tuning mechanism to fix your crappy placement. Sonos does with TrueTone, where you walk around like an idiot waving your phone around looking for signs of paranormal activity. And giving Sonos some clues about the shape of your room. A nagging question when you are watching video is, am I listening to 3D audio? Q handles this with the little display on the right end of the bar. You get a confirmation of 3D audio. It might say Dolby Atmos or DTS. Though, you know, don't miss it. If it does come on, it will be at the start of the video feed. Maybe. The Arc handles it by always showing you in the now playing screen on the app, so you can always get that information. I much prefer this strategy as it's very frustrating when making a video and Samsung is not making it clear if Atmos is happening. I will award an extra point to Sonos for being more awesome on these two fronts. Alright, closing thoughts. Samsung, bless their heart, can put together some nice spec'd out shiny hardware. And that's where the passion always seems to end. Software and unifying the ecosystem always seems like an afterthought. A chore they are passive-aggressive about, or overwhelmed by as they have so many different products to combine. Sonos isn't trying to boss vacuum cleaners around. Samsung has a multi-room home audio solution. Again, why is this very impressive soundbar not included in that network? Why are so many people online confused, thinking this speaker is a multi-room speaker? Using the Q, you will have moments of amazement and moments of sheer frustration when trying to make sense of the software and remote and how they work together, finding no other music service other than TuneIn in the music services section, when you want to incrementally update your system as opposed to having to buy a whole new system. With Q, I can just about guarantee your satisfaction will be sky high when you are in the middle of an action-packed movie. You'll look over at your kid and think, you spoiled brat, I never had anything this cool growing up. But the more you stray from that one core experience, the less satisfied you will be, as the user interaction piece is so utterly disjointed. As such, for some, this will be a better soundbar than Arc. Especially if you're not that interested in voice assistants, whole home audio, just making your TV sound great. Even if this is your only goal, at some point you'll likely find that the Q is not on when it's supposed to be, or your sound has randomly decided to come out of the TV instead of the Q. With Q, you are never safe from the bad software. Sonos, as always, they tend to strive for consistency and fluidity in quality and experience. A Sonos speaker will never be the most impressive speaker out there on traditional metrics, watts, ports, number of drivers in a speaker. They aim for a sound that will satisfy 95.13% of the population. They aim to keep the speaker humming for a decade. They aim to seduce you into an ecosystem that can be added to and tweaked over time, with the comfort knowing the Sonos product you're buying will be able to work with all the other Sonos products for a long time. It's like you get the sense that speakers are their passion, as opposed to an initiative to capitalize on a popular consumer electronics category. These are the final scores. Obviously, my scoring mechanism is a little tongue-in-cheek. It's up to you to decide how to weight the different factors I talked about. It's healthy if you want to yell at me because I over or undervalued some feature. My only hope here is that you became more aware of that feature that you are yelling at me about. In the end, I favor the Arc. I see many parallels with Arc and Q as I do with iPhone and the Galaxy line. I'm an Apple Sonos kind of consumer. I'll pay a premium for slightly less amp specs if specs meet expectations, are wrapped in a thoughtful design, paired with quality software, and will receive support for many years. Though I will remember those exhilarating Mad Max moments with the Q, my summer fling. Well, this review was far longer than any YouTube expert would recommend. I really appreciate those who stuck around. If not too much trouble, maybe do some of those things to make this video more popular. I'll catch you on the next one.